How's everybody doing? Yeah, so we just started off our, we had a long weekend. Players had the weekend off and came back in our Monday, so we got on the field a little bit. So we did light individual and some special teams, then finished with a 7-on-7 just to get the guys moving around. And we always think it's a good idea when you have a couple of days off. It's kind of the schedule we'll have on Thursdays. We looked at it for that after the Thursday games. So that's good to get them moving around. We think it's going to make for a better Wednesday. Leading into Wednesday, we'll be in pads, first and second down day, which you've already had a preview of that. So we're ahead of it a little bit. And going into first, second, third down, we'll be in shells in the second day. And then Friday, we'll be in helmets. And work the red zone, gold zone from there on that day. So guys are excited about this week and the preparation that they've already put in for our first opponent and working into this game week. And really, I talked to him this morning about rhythm and routine. It's a rhythm and routine of an NFL player, of an NFL coach. You have to visit with your loved ones about that rhythm and routine and what that means to you to get yourself prepared and ready to go for these 17 Sundays that are so important to every one of us. And it matters. And details matter. And your preparation matters. And that's the phase they're in right now. They're in preparing. Watching the film, studying their opponent, studying the guy they're going to go against, looking at their matchups. We have a good part of the game plan in, putting themselves in the game plan, where they fit in and where their plays are to be made during that time. So that was kind of the visit this morning, and then we had a nice little light practice today, and now they're off into their preparation mode as we get into this week. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Where's Von Brisker now in terms of being on pace to play Sunday?
Yeah, like I said last week, he is right there. He's progressing, right? And Wednesday's going to be a big day for him, but it looks on a positive side right now. So we're looking at that. He had really good workouts this weekend, and as did Eddie. And so we're looking at both those guys in a positive way. And Wednesday will tell us more.
When you prepared defensively for Green Bay's offense, what are the broad strokes of looking at this with LaFleur? The same coach is still there, but different quarterback, different style of quarterback. How do you, and very limited film on him, how do you put all of that together? What's your approach to game planning for their offense?
Yeah, just know their style and the family and the system they come from. So you can, you know what that style and that system has in their system. So, they're going to do it. They did a lot of good things last year that were effective, and I'm sure they're going to keep doing those things. And we just look at it that way. And there's a lot of guys that in the family that are in the system in the NFL, so you can look at a lot of different things that way. So, but that's what we do.
What do you think, and speaking for Alan as well, what do you guys find most challenging about matching up with LaFleur, what he does, and trying to decode that?
Yeah, it's always about the players. It's always about matching up against their good players. That's every week. When you look at the NFL, it's always about that because how do you match up with those guys? And if you match up well against them, that's fine. If you think you need to help somebody someplace somewhere, you have to do that. And but that's always the game that you play as a defensive guy and an offensive guy. You're always looking for those matchups where you can exploit.
Matt, what's the challenge in preparing for a guy like Jordan Love, who's been in the league for a long time, but there's not so much NFL tape on him? The college tape is.
Yeah, you have what you have, right? You have what you have, and you're looking at the tape that you do have, and that's all you can go by. And again, that happens all the time when you're playing against a guy who's just starting out, maybe a second start or a rookie, and that's all you can go by.
Coach, you all did some things this offseason to address the offensive line, and the thought was, you go left and right with the guys that you thought with Braxton and Tevin and Cody and Nate and Darnell. And the idea was if that can get some continuity over the course of the summer, then that would be a pretty good group going into the season. Obviously, that did not happen due to injuries. Now you're in a bit of a different place. How do you go about moving forward with that, and where's the level of belief or confidence that this group, as they currently assembled, can be as effective as you hope that original group would be?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, it's what you go by. It's what we have, right? So the guys are getting back in there together. They had a couple of good practices last week, which we thought were really good for us. In terms of execution, in terms of continuity, bringing those guys together, and we have this week, and then we're gonna have to build upon that going forward into this first stack of games. So that's really all we have. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, philosophically, when in your decision-making process to keep today brief?
a little bit more on the Monday.
Yeah, just, quick and fresh, and getting guys in and out of the building. We had a good set of meetings, which was great. Had a good team meeting, special teams meetings, and then O&D meetings, which was awesome, putting some more game plan in. And then really the thought was just to, get them moving around, get them catching, get them throwing, get them covering a little bit, and keep them fresh for the Wednesday practice and then moving forward.
What's Cody's best position?
I like him at both spots. I really do. I think he's really good at guard, and he's a very efficient center. And I think going forward, we're lucky to have that. We're lucky to have a guy that can flex in and out. So I like him at both sides, both spots.
When I asked you about LaFleur, you said it comes down to the personnel. It comes down to the players, your players against their players. Do you, as you scout them and make your own plans, do you like the way your personnel matches up better this year with their personnel? After all the upgrades you've made, now do you look around at all 22 spots and say, okay, we have many more edges than we did last year?
Yeah, I would say that for sure. I mean, we have acquired a lot of players, and some good ones. If you look at both sides of the ball, so we feel good about our players, and we're excited about the matchup, and we're excited about those guys being able to go against our rival, and it's going to be exciting.
Man, an underrated part of any rebuild is how good everybody else is. And the NFC North is there's as much parity now with Rodgers out as there's been in a long, long time. How much of that is a factor, do you think? And just in your mindset, just the way you go about it. I mean, if you're trying to rebuild in the AFC West, it's a totally different story. You're in the NFC North. Do you acknowledge that parity and that opportunity that presents for a team that's maybe taking the next step, and it could be a bigger one than maybe people think?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the landscape of your division. I mean, that's certainly the first thing you look at, and then you look at your conference, and then you look at it from there. But we like where we are, in our division, and that's why we play the games. We're going to play these games, and we're going to see where we are and see where we need to grow and mature in some spots and get better at some spots. That's all part of the season. You go from your first game to your second game to your 10th game. We just have to keep getting better every single week. And, again, have some young players in there that are going to be, exciting to watch and exciting to grow. But you certainly feel good where you are in the division.
Now, with such a young team, how much do you as a coach lean on a guy like Eddie Jackson, who's been around for a number of years and been present with this team for a while now?
Yeah, I mean, you lean on all those older guys, right? And Eddie's certainly one of them. He's a guy that's been through, a good season that he's had here in 2018, and then also been through some trials and tribulations, and that makes him a stronger player. And he's been up, and he's been a little bit in the middle, and last year he was on the rise again, and we expect great things from Eddie this year. But leadership is no question. We expect that from him.
Is it more of an advantage for you to face Jordan Love, who has no tape but also not that much experience now, than it would be 8 weeks from now? Or I'm curious what the exchange is in terms of there's less for you to go on, but also he might not have hit his stride the way he would be had he played a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a tough question to answer. It's like you are where you are, so it doesn't. I really can't answer that. Just have what you have, and you go with what you got, and you make the best of it.
When you first saw the schedule, though, did you take note that this is it being week one might have a different connotation than if it were later?
Yeah, I look at the schedule a lot of different ways. I have a lot of perspectives on it. For me, it's like who you're playing, when you're playing them. In terms of the times, rest for your players, everything from this to that. I look at everything. So.
Yeah, your game week routine, is it any different than it's been? Have you learned things from like last year that have changed things, or anything that you can point to that a lesson learned from last year or whatever?
Yeah, I would just say the main change is that I'm going to be more 50-50 on both sides, and with special teams, so I'm going to be more spread with the whole football team than I was last year. I was a lot with the offense last year, so now I've stated that already before, but that's going to be the big difference in the routine for me.
One of the guys that you'll match up with is Christian Watson. What left an impression on you when you played them the second time last year and the things he's able to do?
Yeah, it was a good draft pick for him. He's obviously very talented. He's got that speed. He's got a lot of good things that he does. He's powerful. He's big. Big catch radius. So I think he's a talent for sure, and I'm very impressed with him.
Now, did you feel a different energy coming into the building today, just after the long weekend, finally game week? Did you feel a vibe shift in the building?
Yeah, it's been good the whole offseason, really. The guys have been great energy, great focus, great determination, really good energy out in the field. They're excited. I think they like each other a lot, and you can feel that. And you can feel the relationship piece in building and building, and it's been good.
Did you pick a number 2 quarterback yet?
We're wait and see on that.
Matt, you were talking about routines earlier.
Yep.
Philosophically, late afternoon kick, you got 2 in the first 3 weeks. I don't think you guys had any last year. What does that do? Like, how do you kind of prepare for just what goes into that day?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. You know, you let guys sleep in a little bit, and you move the schedule back just a titch during the course of the week. But it's that game's not as big of a deal as it would be if it was a more of a 6 or a 7 a night game, depending on what coast you're on. But yeah, so it's really not that big of a deal.
At the 2 Green Bay games last year with Justin, you had the one like week 2, I think it was, and another one in December. When you look at those 2 games for him against the same opponent so far apart, was that reflective of how much he grew during that time?
Yeah, I think our team grew during that time. I know the record didn't show that, but I thought that if you watch both those games, there's a growth in there. There's an execution piece in there. There's a style, you know. And I know we ran the ball well the first time up there, but you know, I certainly saw growth in between those 2 games for sure.
What about Justin specifically, though?
Yeah,
You have
him
one
too.
game where Justin completed 7 passes. You have another one where in December where I think he said that was that's some of the best he's felt in his NFL
Yeah,
career.
no doubt. I think it's our whole football team, and he's included in that. Certainly performed better in that game, and we did as a football team too.
You talked about that growth. You talked about that growth from like the beginning of the year to the end of the year, and part of that was, you know, maybe finding the team's identity. Do you have a better idea of where this team's identity is heading into week 1, or do you still think, okay, new team, new season, we'll kind of see how it plays out?
I would say I feel better about the identity overall, just because of we're in the system one more year. The coaches are more familiar with the players, you know, the players that we have, you know, and bringing the new guys on, we bring in more experienced players. So I definitely feel more comfortable with that piece of it for sure.
Can you carry 7 receivers on game day?
You can carry 100 of them.
What goes into the conversation about,
Yeah, you covered 53.
what goes
Just
into
can't be active.
passing game? What goes into the conversation about if you gotta whittle that number down?
Yeah, so that's always a great conversation with the skill sets, right? You know how many running backs do you have? How many receivers? How many DBs? How many safeties, corners? You know, runners. You know, all that skill set. There's always a +1 at one position that you're going to carry, and that's just the conversation you have. And then you got to say, oh, hey, what helps us win the game this week, or what helps us, you know, play better on special teams. A lot of times we've talked about that's the big piece of it. You know, who's going to help us more on special teams. So that's always a conversation that we are having with the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the special teams coordinator as we go through and who's going to be up for the game. So
Is there enough room to keep somebody who's more or less just a punt returner and somebody who's more or less just a kick return together?
that's the mix of it, right? That's the mix of it. We just got to figure out what's best for us this week, and then certainly can change week to week for sure.